by the Business Roundtable. And they said, when the pandemic hit, the Business Roundtable and our companies took action to make sure we were living up to the commitments we made a year ago. That's a paraphrase, but that's basically the gist of it. What did you find when you looked into this?
I found that in general, the signatories to the Business Roundtable statement did no better than any other companies in the S&P 500 when the pandemic hit. And if you dig a little bit deeper, the companies that were returning the most money to shareholders before signing the BRT statement, they had by far the worst responses to the pandemic out of any companies in the S&P 500.
So break that down a little bit, especially that last bit about returning money to shareholders. Let's explain what the Business Roundtable promise or pledge, I suppose, was designed to do.
Sure. So the Business Roundtable statement on the purpose, redefining what a corporation is, what they were doing was trying to move away from pure, unadulterated shareholder capitalism, where the only purpose of the company was to make money for its shareholders. And so the statement said we need to prioritize all stakeholders, put them on equal footing with our shareholders, and not just try and return money to the people who own our stock through buybacks or dividends.
And how did they do before the pandemic? I mean, were they living up to that?
I think that's the most interesting thing that we found in our data. We found that the companies who signed the statement actually did start to change their behavior in ways that aligned with what was in the statement. So we saw them returning less capital to shareholders, less dividends, or lowering their dividends, less buybacks, and taking steps to be more stakeholder oriented. So between when they signed the statement and when the pandemic hit, it seemed like the statement was worth more than the paper it was printed on.
All right, so this is an oversimplification, but when the pandemic hit, did they just go, hey man, we got to survive, and sorry about that promise we made?
You know, I think it's a little bit more complicated than that, because when you look at any firm in the S&P 500, they could have had that same response, right? The shock was felt equally across these companies, obviously different across industries, but when you look comparing BRT firms in the same industries, you see different responses. So I don't think it was, sorry, the statement is just out the window, this is something existential we have to deal with. I think there was something going on with this change that they were trying to make. And then when they encountered the shock, it led to a different type of behavior.